Hi everyone. Well, there are many of you out there. We're looking at thousands of you listening and tuning in to our podcast, literally thousands, which is really great to see. And we hope you're enjoying and getting value for what Robin, Tarek, and I are talking about. Just to remind you as to who we are. My name is John, former chief exec and principal of schools in the UK and Australia. Tarek, just give us a brief one on you as well, sir.
Ex-banker for a few decades, CEO, currently a visiting lecturer at a business school in London, and
currently enjoying 25 degrees in the Mediterranean coast in Egypt. Hey,
there you go.
Tarek, fantastic. Welcome home to Egypt. Wonderful.
Great to be
Robin,
here.
about you, sir?
30 years of banking, now a non-executive director, historian and passionate hiker, and enjoying 30 degrees in Hertfordshire.
You beat me.
Well, there we go. Better to be in Hertfordshire than Cairo. It's great to see you all. We are a conversational group. We are focusing on clear topics, but we're not frightened to disagree with each other or to question each other. We're very good friends and we're all grown up enough to do that. But we've been executive leaders. We're former executives. We're ex-execs. And we have some value to give, we believe, from our conversations. Listen in and send us questions if you want to on the topics we talk about. Today, it's about what would you do as an exec confronted with previous and current economic conditions. Previously, that's a reference to Trump's tariffs, for example, and more importantly, with the potential disruption to your business due to the goings on in the Middle East right now, the very sad goings on in the Middle East, we ought to say. Tarek, how do you read? You've gone back to Egypt recently, and no doubt you're talking to friends and family. The perspective from where you are may be different from the one you would have heard in London, where you previously lived.
Not entirely, because it's the same issues on the ground level. It's the cost of living, it's the price of fuel, it's the price of energy, electricity. I think there's slightly more positivity here in Egypt than there is in the UK at the moment. But broadly, I think businesses are concerned about what's going on, not just in the Middle East, but globally. And I would love to be the fly on the wall, listening into some of the conversations that are going on in different organizations, but I can imagine what they are.
Robin, you have multiple international connections. What are you hearing? What's the kaleidoscope of views you're getting?
I think what people are finding difficult at the moment is that our panacea is always to run in a BAU steady state. And I think in all of our careers, we're very used to these disruptions. In the last couple of years, those disruptions seem to have happened more and more and more. So you get the sense, speaking to a lot of business leaders, that they're firefighting a lot. And that's a big distraction from actually running the business that they want to run and providing the service that they want to run. So spending a lot of time understanding all of these events around the world and making sure, as far as they can, that their building is shielded from it. But all of these shocks make running any business, I think, at the moment, incredibly difficult. And a lot of brain power is being used just trying to anticipate the implications of all of these changes.
It is true that disruption is the norm. It isn't a BAU. You're absolutely right. It's where we all desire to be. It's where our employees and colleagues want to be. It's where our businesses want to be. But there's no such place as BAU. Tarek, what do you think about that? In your many years of experience,
Or maybe it's the new
never a
BAU.
stable time?
That's the
Maybe
way
it's the
someone
new
Actually, yeah. We used to say, the only constant is change, right? And it's getting comfortable. Being uncomfortable is a skill that people have to develop to survive. I mean, I'll just take one other thing, thematic thing that is very important, very serious, that has nothing to do with Trump's tariffs or necessarily the war that Israel and the US started in the Middle East and so on. And if you look at artificial intelligence, AI, and how it's affecting entry jobs into practically every industry, every company around the world, and what the effect that has on youth. So, the language that you use, the decisions that you make, and what do you do with that? So it creates, if you're talking to a team of people in your company and you're the leader, you have to realize that's on their mind, in addition to all the other uncertainties. And that's not going to go away. That's only going to get worse. So
It's quite a common topic in the newspapers that I read, the Times, The Economist. These are common topics. And what we want to be is be a bit more on the ground. I am an exec. I am in a senior position. Maybe I'm the leader, the CEO. Maybe I'm a strong team leader with a big group. Maybe I run a branch of an organization. Whatever I am, on Monday morning or over the next couple of weeks, if I haven't really bent my mind to this yet, what should I be thinking about and what should I be doing about it? Robin, just cast your mind back to those times when you had those hefty responsibilities. What would you be doing right now?
And these can happen at any time, by the way. I mean, as a COO of a bank, they can happen at 3 o'clock in the morning. They can happen at 9 o'clock the following morning. And you have to be ready. Look, my inclination, wherever possible, was always to gather people. And whether that's gather people in your office or whether that's to gather people on the video conference, but if possible, in person. And it's all about sort of making sure people have the same understanding of the particular event and begin to participate in what the implications of that event may be. So I think you really have to get your team together and you've got to get them into that mindset where they really start thinking through the implications of this particular event on their particular department or the wider bank. And in my mind, that is a mindset.
How do you do that? How do you structure that meeting? How do you call it without creating panic? What time do you give it? Come on, let's get some very granular guidance.
I'll give you an example. Well, first of all, I totally agree with what Robin's saying. If you can do the face-to-face, that's brilliant. I mean, I used to, in London at Standard Chartered, I used to get out onto the floor, the platform, if you will, or whatever, and just do a standing conversation for 5 minutes, right? And what it does is it gives people confidence in stability, in a message, in a direction, or whatever, right? But to answer your question, John, in particular, if you're sitting in a meeting and you've got this brewing series of events, if you will, and you need to come out and plot a direction for the whole team. In 20 to 30 minutes, and I've done this, and it was used originally as a creativity tool. All right, innovation creativity tool is you'd basically say, okay, this is what we stand for, or this is what we do, or whatever it is, right? The main thing about our business. And you'd say, okay, what would we do to destroy it? And let's take just 5 minutes, and I want to hear from everybody. You go around the room, and if you have 5 people, 10 people, 20 people, doesn't make a difference. And it's interesting because the human psychology is very keen on, it's easier to destroy. Oh, we wouldn't answer the phone calls. We would not be transparent. We would not tell people what's going on, our customers what's going on. We wouldn't deliver whatever. So you'd basically destroy the fabric of what you do. And people do that for, I don't know, a total of 10 minutes or whatever it is, right?
Give me an example of what can destroy a plan. What do you mean by that?
So for example, in the banking world, you launch a product that doesn't work. Right? You would not quickly respond to fixing it. You would not answer the phone calls. You would be vague about pricing. I mean, on the retail side, that's the classic one. Is like, suddenly you're getting a bill that you didn't expect. Like, wait a minute. Lack of transparency. You would do something that the regulator, is completely, you're against what the regulator says. There are a lot of things that you can do, right? And that's just off the top of my head. But then, this is the interesting bit, is that once you've done that, you've exhausted all the negativity and all the bad ideas to destroy something, then you've written all that up, you then start saying, okay, what's the opposite of that? What could we be doing? And even if you had 20 things that were destroying the business or the brand or whatever you want to call it, there might be 1 or 2 that, you hear from somebody who's always been quiet in the back of the room that says, why don't we do this instead? It's like, okay. And so what you're doing is you're involving the entire team. You're hearing all the voices. You're doing it rapidly. It's not about a lot of deep thinking. It's like, we know our business really well. What would we do to fix it? And you do it the other way around.
And John, I think the other part I make in all of this is that all of this is a lot easier if you've already got that sentiment in the team where they're used to working together, right? Yeah. If you suddenly pull a group together, they don't know who each other is, they're not used to working together. But if you have that mantra in the organization, then it will come very naturally to people. But to Tarek's point, one, you go around the room, but you have to be provocative as well. You have to provoke debate. But John, let me put a scenario to you. And I'm not sure if you were in the school, running the school at the time, but I'd be really interested to see how this would have played out. And tell me if there's a better example. When the VAT change took place on private schools, I mean, how would that have played out in your school at the time? And how would you have dealt with that?
Any decent organisation would have as one of its key risks political change. Independent schools are political football. They are an easy vote winner. 7% of kids go to independent schools, therefore not a big majority. And there is a lot of political gain in bashing them. So any decent school leader who's seen that scenario and developing over the last generation, since the 80s, would have as one of their risks political change, and which results in economic pressure. Do you know what? I anticipated this issue in Australia. It hasn't happened in Australia, but I'll bet you it's going to at some point, because the Aussies watch independent education. And 30-odd% go to independent schools in Australia. So that's a lot of money they could rake in. But we started ancillary businesses to the school, preschool business and a partnership in Vietnam, which would either produce the bottom line return to develop infrastructure better to make us more distinctive, or would shore us up in case of economic disaster, in whichever form it came. Because the independent schools have been hit by VAT, they've been taken out of the teachers' pension scheme, and therefore the teachers' pension costs went through the roof for independent schools, plus other restrictions about their charitable status have come into play. I saw a long time ago, even in the 90s, that I would one day perhaps have to say, I'm going to have to sack 10% of you. I saw it happen in a school, and I didn't want to go there. So anticipating that risk and being able to put debt under control, to be able to have forms of income which can support you should you get into difficulties, it would have started way back before the magic three letters VAT ever emerged. A good leader would think like a CEO. I'm afraid too many school leaders still don't think like CEOs.
But you've also touched on a really important point there, because you did an exercise that wasn't just committed to paper in the event that it may happen. You actually made changes at the time. You referred to the ancillary. So quite often, it's not just a planning exercise. You actually make changes now, in the immediate point. So that's a key finding there, I think.
Yeah,
John. I was just going to add, because it's not just, as you say, political change, but it's also things like COVID must have affected education in a huge way. Right? Nobody really anticipated that. You've got things like the rise of knife crime and drugs and so on in the school that terrify parents and so on. So it's there are so many different scenarios and things that pop up geopolitically, locally, nationally, or whatever, that you constantly have to have, as Robin is saying, not only the plans on paper, but actually exercising and putting actual processes, changing, refining, and so on.
Well, that was the interesting one. Is what if all your science buildings burnt down? No one died, but you've got no science spaces, or you lose the dining hall, or a critical facility. So you can't take exams. So or of course, while we're all talking about the Strait of Hormuz, all those chances, wasters, and losers who are trying to hack into our systems are still out there trying to do cybersecurity damage, which is number one quickest and most damaging risk that schools face. And any organisation faces. So it's a bit like Jaws, while they're watching that bit in the film when they're watching the bay to see if the shark turns up. It turns up in the marina. And that's where you've got to watch the shark in the marina. While you're all focusing on Iran, there are some really, really tasteless, idiotic, and pointless people trying to hack into our systems from hotels in Cambodia or wherever they live. These people.
Yeah, there may be more than one. There may be more than one shark. And also, John, you have to, however much time you spend planning and trying to anticipate all these issues, when these things actually happen, there's always things you forget. So those post-implementation reviews and learning from things that perhaps you didn't anticipate is really, really key as well.
I agree. That's a big part of the
I'd like to go back to something Robin touched on, which I think is absolutely crucial. Well, first of all, a single leader cannot do all of this stuff, cannot think of all the issues, So pulling together people and getting them to participate in finding the solutions or putting up the right defenses or mechanisms to support you. I think one of the key fundamentals is trust. It goes back to something we'd mentioned before. If you have built a team based on trust, they will feel comfortable. This psychological safety, feeling comfortable to voice, here's an idea. Now, it could be, they might think, oh, under normal circumstances, this is a stupid idea, or they're going to ridicule me. But actually, if there's a feeling of safety, they're going to come out and say it. And actually, that theoretically stupid idea might be the brilliant genius idea that makes all the difference.
Yes, quite right.
So I think
Well,
trust.
I'm going to pause for a second just to say to our listeners that, and our viewers, that last month, we had a fantastic session with Hania, who ran HSBC in Cairo during the Arab Spring in 2000, and all the disasters and pressures that she was under. And what struck me, among many things, was her utter calm.
Yeah.
And now what you've talked about, Tarek, in pulling people into that 20, 30-minute meeting, getting the right minds in the room, that atmosphere of calm. Robin, your line that we've got to be a team, that can talk to each other. Tarek, you just referred to psychological safety. Nothing is stupid. People should feel the capacity to contribute. All those are important. But in practical terms, Tarek, going back to your meeting, who writes down what's happening? Who does what with that meeting? Because there's a whole load of notes that are going to come out of that. And everyone goes, great, we've done our bit, and they walk away. What happens to that piece of paper? Do you have a note taker?
Yeah.
Do you have a recording?
I mean, basically what used to happen is somebody would be designated at the beginning of the meeting to actually take the notes, or the key notes, if you will, and then the action steps. And then at the end, we'd ask people, we'd say, okay, who's going to volunteer and run with this process or whatever it is, right? And because at the end of the day, if it all sits with the leader who then issues a mandate or whatever, that doesn't work. You got to give ownership. And in a lot of cases, you make it, I mean, I used to do it when I was with Bank of America in Singapore. We used to do it over food, over a brunch. And I mentioned this, I think, before, that the team would come in with an issue that they thought was critical. They would come forward with one or two solutions. They would then discuss it. We would decide, okay, that's the best solution together, collectively. And then they would run with it. And the attraction for them was they're getting free food. They loved it every few weeks.
Yeah.
But
Free food always works, Tarek.
it's a great unifier.
Yeah,
it's a great unifier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You put the word "and pizza" at the end of any meeting. Everyone just turns up.
And you know, the other thing, John, is that sometimes you miss the most obvious point. And I'll give you a practical example. We had a project we were working on, and that project relied on a certain number of people working from home and accessing remotely. And when the event actually transpired, we didn't have the right number of licenses for the number of people who needed to work from home. Such a simple point.
Yes.
But sometimes you can get so bogged down in the detail, you miss the most obvious things that will take you down when that particular event happens.
I think that's really that's very
During
Tarek.
during COVID, I noticed a number of individuals, if you will, in different parts of the world. They didn't have the network to support the conversations. They didn't have the right, not just the licenses, but didn't have the right tools, if you will. Their camera didn't work, the microphone didn't work, or whatever. And that was quite frustrating. And of course, there was the concern that they're also homeschooling. So their kids are running around, it's like they don't have a private space where they can have the conversation or whatever. So there's all these little challenges. I think there's lessons learned, not just from yourself, but if you are curious, as you mentioned, Robin, then you'll be able to extract all these learnings from other places and other crises.
It's amazing for me how many of these conversations we have come back to culture.
Yeah.
And culture and the way our cultures work. If we have a culture which resists being fleet-footed and adaptable, the minute that COVID hits, which was unexpected, you're going to spend a lot of time sellotaping together egos and correcting conflicting relationships because while we're needing to do something different. If you have a culture which does not learn lessons from crises, Robin's point, if we think we've done it all perfectly well and we're all really on top of this and we're not self-critical, if you have a culture which isn't prepared to look into the abyss, as you've done in your meetings, Tarek, when you've got to question what can destroy us, these are all cultural mindset matters that we should be evolving in our teams so that whatever comes our way, we can cope.
Also,
So
I think
here's an idea then, John. I mean, one thing that I would do on occasion, you have your team meeting once a week, once a month, and you go through the normal sort of BAU issues. Devote 10 minutes at the end to a little provocative discussion. Move away from all of the BAU stuff and say, guys, let's just talk around a particular topic or scenario. and get people used to thinking through the implications of things. And I think if you do that over time, you begin to build that inquisitive culture. So there's an idea of something you can do with your team.
I think also, I mean, to both of your points, that being very rigid corporate culture or whatever it is, sometimes gets you to hang on to something that is no longer relevant in the current environment. You know, the only constant is change, and therefore you should look at, do we need to change this? Do we need to tweak this? And this could include your business model. I'll never forget, I learned something fabulous during the pandemic, unfortunately. There's a fishmonger that used to take fish, fresh fish on the day of the catch or whatever it is, and sell it to restaurants and hotels in London, in and around London, or southeast London, the UK. And of course, a lot of the restaurants and the hotels shut down during the pandemic. So suddenly, in theory, his business is going to go up in flames. What he did was quite smart. He started going around with his van, putting out flyers in front of all the individual homes, and he would deliver fresh fish, crab, shrimps, whatever you want, directly to the consumers. So he went from business to business, business to business, B2B, to B2C. And I'll tell you, his business went through the roof.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's like, okay, he's agile, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lesson there.
So absolutely. Now, I've just had a little notification on my laptop saying that the oil price is coming down on the hope of successful talks with Iran. So if this thing starts to settle down, there isn't going to be an instant return to normality. There are lots of facilities, logistical channels and other arrangements which need to be put back together again. And this could take a while. What's going to be the impact? And I really picked this up from Hania. What's the impact on our staff? Because she was very keen to protect her staff through the Arab Spring challenges. What if they can't get to work? What if they can't pay their bills because the bills are going to go through the roof? We heard that in the UK yesterday because bills are going to go. What do we do with our staff?
Look,
Yeah,
I
think in any event like this, having a clear messages that demonstrate that you care about your team, you understand the implications on your team of all these events is really important, John. And I think that's what Hania mentioned, asking questions about their families, asking questions about their children. So I think at the end of any meeting, always think through with people the implications on all of their personal circumstances. I think that's just good care, right?
Yeah, I think there's one thing. It depends on the industry, right? Because there are certain things that you can do that have a financial cost, and there's certain things that don't, right? So I don't know, whatever industry you're in, most of the team and their families will be feeling the cost of living, right? The price of a basket of goods that they're buying has gone up and will stay up and may even go up higher, right? The cost of fuel, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know, putting on staff loans, putting on deferred payments for certain things that they may have had.
Paying for remote access, SIM cards, that sort of stuff.
Exactly. And also, to some extent, I mean, this is probably a perfect time to bring your children to work, you know, because it creates the connection between the family and the business, and the fathers or mothers are away, et cetera, et cetera. And it creates a little bit of a fun, you create a tribe, you create a society or a group of individuals. And it's not just employees. You don't think of them as just staff. And so there are a lot of small things that you can do that don't cost a huge amount of money that create that. Because the easiest thing is people are going to say, you know what, I'm going to switch off. I'm just not going to give my full attention.
Disengage.
Exactly. Yeah. What do they call it? The big quit, or whatever it's called.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or presenteeism.
Let me ask a question. So, John, Tarek, 2 bits of feedback we've had from people on these podcasts. People love stories, and they also like to hear when things didn't go well. So it's very easy to just talk about all the great things we did and when things went well. But I'd be really interested to hear from both of you a story where it didn't go well, things weren't well planned, and what you did thereafter. Any examples where actually you reflect back and think, wow, we really did think that one through. We did plan that as well as we should have done. And any sort of lessons.
John, go ahead.
I'm just thinking through COVID again. And I I think we could have been better. We could have been better with those who were not our frontliners. I think we rely so much on ancillaries in any organisation: the administrators, the finance people, the HR people, and we had to take some people off, or put people off work, and because children weren't coming in, there wasn't a call for their services, and halfway through I felt bad about this. So I'm coming back at you with a question here. I took a pay cut.
Yeah.
What do you think of that? Just a temporary, because everything must
Yeah.
be temporary.
Yeah.
Because in keeping with the crisis that we're in, we can't keep supporting staff beyond the crisis, but we can't let these get big. But during the crisis, I and my COO took a pay cut. What do you make of that?
Yeah.
I think it's a fantastic step. Did you publicise it or did you do it quietly?
I did it quietly, but my exec team knew, so I knew it was the sort of thing that I didn't mind if it leaked.
No, I think that shows a real empathy
I didn't put an
with the
embargo on it. I
situation.
didn't say you must keep this confidential, whatever it is. But I feel that I feel a bit for my teachers, and I'm going to take a hit here.
No, I think that was absolutely the right decision.
And my administrators, I ought to say, because they're the poorly paid people that do phenomenal work. Phenomenal at moments of real, when the balloon goes up, they are so superb, and I felt bad.
John, it reminded me of, I mean, your approach was absolutely the right one. Some organizations in the financial services industry, fortunately not the two that I worked with, at the very top of the organization used to have corporate jets. Not mine, but others, right? And what was hilarious was you would hear the CEO of this large organization saying, "Oh, we need to cut 20,000 people." And he's still flying around with corporate jets. Like,
Yes.
wait a minute.
And improve our carbon footprints at the same time. Yeah, absolutely.
No, I'll give you an example. So we had a policy, actually, in both organizations. If you flew over X number of hours, I think it was, I can't remember whether it was 5 hours or 7 hours of flight time, you were allowed to fly business class, right? So that you arrived fresh for your business meetings. In one of the crises in the past, I had a conversation with my team and I said, look, it's your right, it's the policy, you can do that, but think of it this way. If we flew economy, you will have more chances of getting to your targets because you will be able to do 2 flights or 3 flights or whatever instead of that one business flight. And actually what happened is a lot of people opted to fly economy because it wasn't that such a big deal. If you flew just a little bit over the 5 hours, forget it. If you're doing 14 hours, then maybe it's different or whatever. But, all of us can survive economy flights. That was one issue. The other issue was when you're faced with big, serious issues, if you, as the leader, take the lead and do it yourself, then it makes a difference. So I'll give you another quick example that happened in the UK. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but basically we were required to use quite a lot of our time for the regulator to do all the, KYC, CDD, et cetera, And the normal response would be add headcount, add lots of more people. And of course, this was pre-AI days or whatever it is. But what we did is, and it cost practically nothing, is the team got to learn how to speed read. We put on lunchtime coaching sessions for speed reading. Within a month or whatever it was, 45 days, the team basically had an extra 30% of their time. So they could go home earlier, they could finish their work, they could still see their clients, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to be a little bit curious and creative and go dig down into what is causing the issue or what are the effects of the potential issue. But anyway, every industry is slightly different, but it's the mindset that Robin is referring to.
And also,
Would
John, in addition, there's something that Hania referred to is, be present, be there in person, be involved, walk the floors, etc. Don't do this exercise from some office on the 45th floor.
Absolutely.
Be ever present. I think it is absolutely key. Be part of it.
One thing we haven't got to yet, we've got about 10 minutes left, and there's one thing that you identified, Tarek, right at the beginning, was through all this, it calms down in the Middle East, tariffs they work out that's a ridiculous idea. And then there's the AI challenge. And I'm seeing it with my own son right now, who's in that age bracket, and where all those jobs that he would have done aren't there anymore. It's the disruptive power of AI. It's going to last a lot longer than a fuel shortage because we've trapped a few ships at the Straits of Hormuz. What do we do about this organizationally? Stunning.
Yeah. I don't think. I don't think a lot of people.
typing into ChatGPT to get an answer.
Oh no.
No, I guess that, John, my initial response, a very hard-ever response, like any significant change, you have to sit down, plan it, anticipate, and think it through, don't you? I don't think it's any different to any other significant change that's hit organisations for many, many years. Could this be even larger? For sure, but I think maybe the way you deal with it is not that different, right?
I have. Okay. If going back to your original question, which is if you were running an organization today, what would you do with this challenge, with the AI challenge? Some people see it as problematic. And yes, there are a lot of dangers around AI if you don't have guardrails, if you don't have the ethics in place, et cetera, et cetera. But it's also an opportunity to increase the size of your business, get to more clients, increase the revenue, et cetera, et cetera. So if you took that approach, it means remodel your team, right? And I would still go out and hire people, individuals, humans, because, and it's got to be, your criteria for choosing people isn't going to be just their experience or what they've done or all the degrees that they have. It's going to be, do they have the ability to, do they have critical thinking? Because the critical thinking piece is the only thing that AI can't really do. That human touch that basically is able to guide and put a human element. And I think what's happening is people still buy from people. They will not buy from a robot. They will not buy from and there's a suspicion that an AI agent talking to you, selling you something, does it understand all your situation, right? So I think it's like, if you are agile, you can remodel the business, you can increase the size of footprint that you have, you can still bring in humans, but you need to remodel the business from the way it was before. I think that would be my approach.
I did some research on this. Culture in my bag, culture and AI adoption or digital disruption. And the best companies that I talked to had gone into this conversation about AI with their people. AI was not something we did to people, but we did with people. The phrase "don't just automate but augment" meant, what does it mean for you? It means we can change the nature of your job and make your job actually more exciting. We can take away the humdrum. We can take away the stuff that really drives you crazy, because there are actually some bigger things I want you to think about and take time over in whatever part of the organization so we can improve it. And that creative thinking, critical thinking about the organization can come to the fore, because we're missing a trick here. We're missing the efficiency there. We're missing an opportunity to do something while I'm laden down with writing these 200 reports every fortnight for somebody, which something else, some machine could do. I can then start to really, really get to the bottom of what's happening here or there and make it better. And retrain myself, have time to retrain my mind, my approach, to innovate in the organization. That sort of positive conversation, I feel, was what came out of my research, was one of the ways in which it succeeded.
Yeah.
But to your point, John, you're having those same conversations that we've been referring to, right? Engage with your staff. And by the way, they sound very similar to the conversations that we had 20 or 30 years ago when computers first emerged, and we were all told we'd be working a 3-day week by now.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
John, you touched on something that connected some dots for me, which is, it's an opportunity, right? And it's an opportunity to be, if you go back and look at research over a period, I think it was 100 years, maybe a little bit more, out of roughly 100, 150 companies that existed, that were largest companies 100 years ago, only 20 have survived. And the reason those 20 have survived is they adopted a structure that was ambidextrous, right? And ambidextrous means they can do lots of different things, left hand, right hand, etc., all at the same time, consecutively. And if you are thinking of using AI to, exactly as you said, take out those repetitive tasks, do the traditional screening that humans used to do, then you can actually start using your talent team, your talent force to do different things. And that gets you to be ambidextrous, which means you have a greater chance of success and survival through a lot of change. And so...
And imagine the damage that the chief exec of Standard Chartered created this week in the business pages when he referred in, is it Standard Chartered?
Yes.
I apologize if it wasn't. But the thing is, one of the big banks, when he referred to people as lower value human capital.
It's...
Now, the cultural implications of a statement like that are enormously... They have to be managed, because that has reduced the culture's capacity to adapt, and the wish to cooperate with change has been severely damaged. Our speeches and our comments
make a difference.
Need to be very, very
Words
carefully monitored.
matter, John.
Yeah,
Words totally
there's
matter.
another podcast, John.
Yeah.
Well, I think I have done a very short one on this a long time ago. On now you're a CEO, now you have a megaphone. Everything you say is amplified beyond where you expected it to go. Or what is the lifespan and journey of the words that you say? Yes,
he did come out. He did come out later and said, "Oh, I'm going to clarify the context there." But anyway, regardless. The damage, corporate communications, words matter, and you just don't go off the cuff on something like this.
Words are a thing. Once they're out of your mouth,
anyway,
they have a life, and
which is not representative. Actually, what came out there was not representative of the Standard Chartered that I knew. I think it's still the same. That culture is actually quite strong. So it's a shame that it's a mistake, but it's a pretty terrible one, in my view.
I'm going to pause the conversation before I say something stupid, which might get me in trouble. We do have 8,000 people have tuned in some form or another to our podcast. So it's a big audience of you out there, and we want to say that we value you. We value your comments, we value your questions, and we value you being there. Thank you. We are going to continue to come to you. We have guests lined up. Can't reveal just yet who our next guest is going to be, because we have yet to agree that with the amazing person we're going to talk to next. But we want to say to you that we are here to support you. If you want to send us anything to help us do this better, or as topics for us to discuss, great stuff. If you want us to come and do work for you, we will very happily come and talk to you about that, because we want to see business do well, and we want to see careers and young talent as well as old talent be happy in their work and enjoy their professional journeys. We enjoyed our journeys. We want you to enjoy yours. This is Tarek, Robin, and myself, John, tuning out, wishing you a happy day, happy evening, happy walk, happy car journey, whatever you're doing listening to us, and we will speak to you again next week.
See you later.